Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. Hari Om to one and all. This morning our topic is Lord Rama and Mother Sita as role models to householders. On the 8th of November 1942, Gurudev wrote in his book Stri Dharma, "Blessed Devis, grow in the simplicity and purity of Sita. Kindle the lamp of devotion in your heart. Be devoted to your husband. Become an ideal wife and an ideal mother. The destiny of children is in your hands only. Train them properly." Sita was rich in the inner beauty of the soul. Attain this unfading beauty through purity and devotion. Care not for dress or ornaments. May you all shine like Sita. In his book Essence of Ramayana, Gurudev writes, Lord Rama was Maryada Purushottama. He was a Prema Murti. He was an ideal son, an ideal brother, an ideal husband, an ideal friend, and an ideal king. He can be taken to embody all the highest ideals of man. He led an ideal life of a householder to teach humanity. Dear brothers and sisters, before we elaborate on how and why Sri Rama and Mother Sita are our role models as householders, we need to understand a few concepts of Hinduism. The first concept is Hindu Dharma. Dharma is a complex concept. In its broadest sense, it encompasses duty, rights, vocation, religion, customs, righteousness, and laws of nature. More specifically, and in a practical sense, dharma means duty. Gurudev says that virtuous actions elevate a man or woman to the status of divinity, and that truth and purity should be the mottos of your life. He emphasizes pativrata dharma. Pati meaning husband and vrata meaning vow, which is the greatest vow for a woman. He says, a pativrata is a woman who sticks to this vow even at the risk of her life, who is faithfully devoted to her husband and worships him as her Lord and serves him with all her heart, mind and soul. The next concept is Varna Ashra Dharma, which is a person's obligations or duties, his or her dharma, according to his or her stage of life or ashrama. In Hinduism, there are 4 ashramas or stages of life, namely Brahmacharya, the student life, Grihastha Ashrama, householder's life, Vanaprastha, the forest dweller's life, and Sannyasa, the renunciate. Of all the ashramas, Gurudev says that the householder's life is the highest ashrama as it supports the other 3. He says, as all streams flow to rest in the ocean, so also all the ashramas flow to rest in the householder. This is the field for developing the virtues of mercy, generosity, love, patience, tolerance, purity, prudence, and right judgment. This stage is the true test of spirituality, and it is the razor path. Hence, as householders living in this age of Kali Yuga, where vices prevail as opposed to Satyug, where virtues prevailed, we need constant guidance and vigilance and self-analysis of our lives. We need to reflect on our dharma constantly, and as we are trapped in a materialistic world, attracted to Western lifestyles, and marginalize or forget our dharma. Our saints and sages foresaw the moral degeneration of man in Kali Yuga and produced great epics like the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Upanishads to educate us on righteous living and to uphold our dharma. Saints like our Gurudev Swami Sivananda unpacked these profound texts into various formats, namely books, plays, bhajans, kirtans, prayers, and poetry, so that people, regardless of level of education, language, religion, creed, or caste, have access to spiritual education. and guidelines on how to live according to our Hindu Dharma. The saints have provided various facilities and services to assist us in our spiritual aspirations. Sri Gurudev and Puja Swamiji have nurtured our love for Sri Rama and Mother Sita in our satsangs and in their literature. The exemplary lives and divine nature of Sri Rama and Sita are extolled by Sri Gurudev in his books, particularly Sri Dharma and the Essence of Ramayana, and permeate almost all the books written by him. Swamiji has also instilled in us love for Sri Ram and Sita by formatting our satsang programs in such a way that we propitiate and sing the glories of Ram and Sita from the beginning to the end of our satsangs. He also encouraged us to repeat the Sri Ram mantra incessantly, screening and reading the Ramayana and reciting the Ramayana shlokas. Why? He did this to instill in us the virtues of the ideal man and the ideal woman, and permeate our whole being with Rama and Sita, and develop love for these great souls. Gurudev and Swamiji, our loving, caring, and compassionate gurus, wanted their dear devotees to lead virtuous and righteous lives according to Hindu Dharma, like Rama and Sita did. They have provided all the facilities and services for us to transform ourselves and reach that cherished goal, God realization. Let us look at some of the events in the lives of Rama and Sita which demonstrate how they conducted themselves as householders, how they fulfilled their responsibilities, and how they coped with their trials and tribulations. When Sri Rama and Mother Sita married and entered the Grihastha ashram stage of their lives, they experienced many difficulties. Like all householders, they had many responsibilities and had to play various roles. Sita as wife, daughter-in-law, sister-in-law, and queen, and Rama as husband, son, brother, king, and friend. Both Rama and Sita, in every situation or difficulty they encountered, reacted or made decisions based on Dharma, their duties and responsibilities in the various roles. They performed the duties according to Hindu Dharma to perfection and selflessly. They adhered to the marriage vows. Dharma was their rock, their reference point for any situation, even to the point of sacrificing their lives. Their first and most difficult situation after their marriage was the news of Rama's exile on the eve of his inauguration as king of Ayodhya. Rama, who should have been the most affected and disturbed, received this news with great equanimity. Instead of the rest of his family consoling him, he was consoling his mother, his father, Bharata, and even Kaikeyi. He could have refused this command, but decided to fulfill his duty as a son to support his father's dharma in honoring his vow to Kaikeyi. So, what was important to Ram was upholding truth, honoring a promise, and sacrificing his glory to fulfill his duty to his father. Ram said, "There is no higher duty than serving one's father and carrying out his commands." Despite Kaikeyi's role in his exile, Sri Rama respected her wish and did not concede to Bharata, who begged him to stay. In this one scene or incident, Rama has displayed his great virtues of equanimity, respect, sense of duty, responsibility, and self-sacrifice. His acceptance of exile was spontaneous, without question, without consultation or discussion with Sita or his mother or his brothers, because he knew it is his duty to support his father in honoring his promise, even if it meant leaving behind his beloved Sita and all the luxuries of palace life. Let us see now how Sita reacts. Sita also showed great equanimity and did not express anger and hatred towards Kaikeyi or towards Rama for conceding to this demand. She honored her vow of being always at her husband's side in good and bad times and supporting his decision. Sita said that she would accompany him to the forest. Rama tried to dissuade her by explaining to her calmly and most lovingly how dangerous and uncomfortable it would be for her, showing his love and care for her welfare and safety. He also told her that while he is away, the elders in the family will need her and care and support. But Sita, as much as she agreed with Ram, put her pativrata first and foremost. Gurudev says, just listen to the soul-stirring reply of Sita. O beloved Rama, the father, mother, son, daughter, brother, and sister, all of them live by the results of their own deeds. It is the wife alone who shares the fate of her husband. The only stay or refuge or support for a woman is her husband. To a woman, the shade of her husband's lotus feet is preferable to mansions or palaces. Wealth and prosperity are nothing compared to the husband. As is the body without prana or life, and the river without water, so is the woman without her husband. Sita's response is the epitome of Sri Dharma and Pativrata. Despite being accustomed to the luxuries and comforts of palace life, she was prepared to renounce all and honor her marriage vows, Tri Dharma. Only a divine being like Mother Sita could do this. When Rama continued to dissuade her by enlisting the difficulties she will encounter and how miserable it will be in the forest, she said she would gladly welcome all sorts of difficulties, as the suffering and misery will help her to develop many good qualities. This resonates with Sri Gurudev's and Puja Swamiji's principles, no pain, no gain, and pain is thy teacher. Sri Rama was deeply moved by her love and affection and yielded to her wishes. The fact that Rama lets Sita speak shows his respect for her. It also shows that he was not an egoistic and overpowering, demanding husband who would say, "Do as I tell you." This demonstrates the divine love between them, their equality. According to Gurudev, every word that came out of Sita's mouth expressed sublime sentiments and deep reverence unto her husband. These words should be engraved in the heart of every woman. Her purity, devotion, and sacrifice is unequaled. Gurudev's message to women is, become a Sita, you will achieve everything. You can then move heaven and earth. In such a critical situation, Sita demonstrated immense strength and wisdom and controlled her emotions. She could speak so lovingly, remain so calm, and express herself so well. It is evident from the scene that both Rama and Sita honored their marriage vows of remaining loyal and faithful to each other and supporting each other in good and bad times, sharing the responsibilities and enduring the difficulties with strength and courage. Rama respected Sita's wishes and decisions. She stood by his side and supported his decision. They also honored the marriage ritual that united souls as husband and wife. They walked together as spiritual companions, honoring and loving each other unconditionally. They did not break the promise of abiding by all the sacred vows. How would we have reacted in such a critical situation, with such difficult decisions to make? As Swamiji would have said, there would have been a huge drama. There was no drama here because of both Rama and Sita's divine nature and their adherence to Dharma. The lesson for us is to reflect on our duty in our different roles as wife, husband, father, mother, son, and do the right thing, make the right decision. Honor our promises, honor our marriage vows. Be calm and rational. Be prepared to make sacrifices to uphold our dharmic principles. Gurudev says that truth and purity should be our motto in all circumstances. The exile of Rama was only the beginning of their difficulties. Throughout the Ramayana, Rama and Sita experience great difficulties. In each situation, however difficult, they adhered to the Dharma and endured the pain and suffering that ensued and moved on with their lives. Rama had tried to balance his conflicting dharmas, his duty as a ruler and his duty as a householder. He fulfilled his duty as a king by establishing Ram Rajya, or the ideal state where peace, prosperity, harmony, and justice reigned. But this role conflicted with his role as Sita's husband, which caused great suffering for Sita. The next big test was the abduction of Sita. Rama reacted like all human beings. He was distraught, feared for her safety, and had sleepless nights. He lamented and was concerned how he would explain to Sita's father, King Janaka, when he asked about the welfare of his daughter. What would he say to his mother, Kausalya? He made every effort to find her because she was his wife, and it was his duty to protect her and save her from the demon Ravana. At the same time, he had to reflect on his duty as a Kshatriya, that is, to fight a righteous war against Ravana to get Sita back. Sri Ram could have gone straight to Lanka and brought Sita back, but he restrained himself because he had to honor his role as heir to his kingdom. Again, Sri Ram teaches us to reflect on our duty, our dharma, before we act. As much as he loved Sita, he had to detach himself, suffer the pain of separation, and engage in this war to show us that truth will prevail, but only after a great struggle. We must endure pain and suffering and make great sacrifices to uphold our dharma before we achieve our goals. Sita, being the ideal wife and ideal woman, demonstrated her sterling qualities of purity, self-surrender, and self-sacrifice, and the power of patiently enduring oppression and extreme violence. She endured a grueling life in the forest, but more grueling than this was the torture in Lanka, in the Ashoka Grove. In the Sundarkand of the Ramayana, Sri Hanuman witnesses Sita's suffering and torture by Ravana and the Rakshasa women. Here, her chastity and her duty as a faithful wife was put to the test. Ravana tried to seduce her and told her that if Rama loved and cared for her, he would have come to rescue her. He taunted her and threatened her, but Sita, being the strong and divine woman, showed her fearlessness. To protect herself, she placed a blade of grass between herself and Ravana. In no uncertain terms, she told him what a coward he was to abduct her, that he was unrighteous and had a perverted mind, that Sri Ram will kill him in battle and rescue her because she has faith in him and is devoted to him. She advises him to follow the rules of Dharma, to lead a righteous life and protect wives of others as he would protect his own. Although she stood up to Ravana, she was distraught. Throughout her stay in the Ashoka Grove, her eyes were rooted to her feet and to her lord, Rama. Rama was constantly in her mind and heart. She honored her vow of chastity at all costs, even asking Ravana to kill her. Even after she was rescued, Sita's trials continued. Rama, being righteous and considering that he was the heir to the throne and that his subjects looked up to him, he put aside his joy of getting Sita back and tested her chastity. He told her that he could not take her back home to the palace and accept her as his wife because she had lived in the house of a stranger. Sita stood up to Ram and told him that while she was away, she could not even think or look at another man. How could he charge her with being unchaste? She then asked Lakshmana to light a funeral pyre at once and said that if she was unchaste, she would be burned to ashes at once, and if she is pure, the fire would not even touch her. She entered this fire fearlessly, and Agni, the god of fire, held Sita in his arms and came out of the fire and said, O Rama, this is thy Sita. She is quite pure and innocent. Accept her as thy wife. She is attached to thee. She has never, even in a dream, thought of any other man for a moment. Your suspicion is groundless. No one in this world has undergone such a severe ordeal. Sri Rama then accepted Sita and told her that she had shown the world what superhuman deeds a devoted and chaste wife can perform. He said, the gods have made you an ideal wife. He took her hand with intense affection and joy, and she put the dust off his feet on her head. Rama had to constantly protect his role as king and please his citizens first before pleasing Sita. He was their leader and therefore had to leave no doubts in their minds that he was righteous. Even Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says that a great man has to be very careful of his actions and how he conducts himself because he sets the standard for his people. Despite the Agni test, Rama banished Sita to the forest when she was pregnant because the citizens still doubted her chastity. They blamed Rama for accepting Sita back after living in Lanka for such a long time. Rama said that many citizens had not witnessed her test in the fire and still did not believe that she was chaste. Hence, as king, he had to protect his citizens, rule justly, and make them happy. He did this at the expense of Sita's hardships and their separation. When Lakshmana took Sita to the forest and then told her why Rama had banished her, she accepted her fate calmly. She knew that Ram did not doubt her chastity, and she understood that he had to please and protect his subjects. Sita said that it is her duty to avoid all censure and infamy to him, because he is her sole refuge, and this is the highest morality, and that she was born to undergo lifelong troubles, difficulties, and sorrows. She did not feel sorry for herself, nor was she displeased with him. She knew that she was always in his heart, and that he will always be enthroned in her heart, and she will worship him day and night. Rama had the same sentiments. He did not live like a king in the palace. He lived like an ascetic, devoting his mind, body, and soul to Sita, constantly thinking of her. Their divine love and divine union are evident here. Sita brought up her two sons, Love and Kush, with the guidance of her guru Sri Vasistha, who cared for her after she was banished. She fulfilled her responsibilities as a single mother. She did not complain or beg Rama to let her live in Ayodhya. She did not tell her sons who their father was, and did not take them to Ayodhya. She chose to live in dignity and brave the dangers of forest life rather than live in humiliation. Here again, Sita showed her strong will and resilience in the face of adversity and her adherence to Dharma. She continued to be faithful to Rama. Gurudev says Sita underwent the severest tests and was literally tried in the furnace and emerged pure. She bore all difficulties and miseries bravely. Her moral stamina and soul force is unparalleled. Gurudev says, what a model woman Sita was. How sublime and noble she was. She was not a bit affected by the injustice of her husband. She was still devoted to him even when he doubted her. May you all shine like Sita. May you all imbibe the virtuous qualities of Sita. May her blessings be upon you all. Of Sri Rama, Gurudev says that we have the example of a perfect human being, Maryada Purushottama. He is unparalleled in devotion to truth and righteousness, and his sense of duty is superb. He is the embodiment of Dharma, because of his virtues, his sense of duty, truth, and righteous conduct in all circumstances. His adherence to Dharma was exemplary. Although a divine being, he lived the life of an ideal householder to teach the world the Dharma of a Grihastha and never swerved an inch from truth and duty. So how did Sri Rama and Sita manage to lead such exemplary divine lives in the midst of such great adversities? Firstly, being born in Satyug, when spiritual education rather than secular education was the order of the day, when good prevailed over evil, truth prevailed over untruth, they only knew how to conduct themselves according to Dharma. There were no other influences. The environment was pure. Rama and Sita, despite being born in royal household with all the luxuries, were trained at an early age in the brahmacharya or student stage by the parents and their gurus to live according to Dharma and to endure hardships. They did not only have the knowledge of living a righteous and virtuous life according to Dharma, but practiced and lived it. Hence, when they reached the householders or Grihastha ashram stage, they were empowered, instilled with dharmic principles which prepared them for the householders' difficult journey. Above all, we cannot forget that they were both divine beings, born to teach us how to conduct our lives as householders. As Gurudev and Swamiji always said, the spiritual path is a razor path, and so is the householder's life, the furnace where our dharma is tested time and again. Likewise, Sita and Rama were tested throughout their lives until virtue prevailed over vice, truth prevailed over untruth, the divine prevailed over the demonic, and Rama, the paragon of virtue, killed Ravana, the paragon of vice. This is what we have to do constantly: eradicate vices and cultivate virtues. As parents and householders today, although we cannot send our children to gurukulas, we can place emphasis on spirituality, religion, codes of conduct, and the relationship between teacher and student. We have many religious organizations like our Divine Life Society, which provide for spiritual education of children. Both Gurudev and Swamiji placed great emphasis on children and referred to them as spiritual darlings. It is our responsibility as parents to instill virtues in our children and guide them on the righteous path. Gurudev places great emphasis on the mother, the woman of the house, who has the strongest influence on a child's life from infancy and has given many instructions and rules for women to follow. The most comprehensive and critical is Tri Dharma. Is it possible for us to emulate Rama and Sita as model householders? They were ideal householders and divine beings. Hence, it is very difficult to emulate them in these modern times in Kali Yuga, where adharma is prevalent. Gurudev in Sri Dharma says, ideals will remain distant and seemingly impossible of full attainment. Only then will we be goaded to make an exceptional and extraordinary effort to get something at least by approaching the lofty ideal. Once the human mind tacitly subscribes to the lowering of any lofty ideal, then the undesirable precedent is set up. The ball is set rolling, which ultimately ends in all-round degeneracy. In other words, Gurudev is saying that we should not lower the bar, but strive for the ideal. It is easy to say that we are not Rama and Sita, we can never be like them, and carry on as we please, making no effort to transform ourselves. Spiritual values constitute the pivot on which the edifice of life is built, be it man's or woman's. It is the foundation, the rock. Lord Krishna says, spiritual transformation comes with constant practice and faith and self-surrender. Dear brothers and sisters, I think that we are extremely fortunate to have the guidance of our Guru Swami Shivananda and Puja Swamiji, who are, and who will always guide us in our spiritual endeavors. We can marvel at our ideal householders, Sri Rama and Mother Sita, but if we do not make an effort either to be receptive to our Guru's guidance and obey the instructions, and not reflect on how we can try to emulate Rama and Sita in our daily lives, then we will not reach that ideal state. In conclusion, we, as Sri Gurudev's devotees, need to reinforce and live by his simple yet profound mottos: be good, do good, serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize. May Gurudev bless us and guide us in our duties and responsibilities as householders, and may Sri Rama and Sita always be our role models. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya. Mahashivaratri is one of the most auspicious festivals in the Hindu calendar. It is a celebration of Lord Shiva for many reasons. On this day, the planets are aligned in a way that gives rise to a natural increase of spiritual energy in all of us. To get the maximum benefit of this energy, it has become a tradition for people to stay up all night with their spine erect and to chant the Lord's name. It will help push you towards your spiritual peak. Some people also celebrate this day as the anniversary of Lord Shiva's marriage to Parvati. People with worldly ambitions believe that this is the day that Lord Shiva conquered all his enemies. Although Lord Shiva is known as the destroyer, he is also renowned for his compassion. He is known as the greatest of givers. It is said that if you pray to him with all your heart, whatever you desire will be fulfilled. If you look at a picture of Lord Shiva, you will notice that he is adorned with various symbols. Today, we would like to dwell on these symbols and enlighten you on their significance.
Om Namashivaya, the crescent-shaped moon. Lord Shiva is typically pictured wearing a crescent-shaped ornament on the one side of his head. This is why he is often called Chandrasekhara, meaning having a moon as his crest. The crescent is actually the moon in its fifth day phase. It symbolizes the time cycle through which creation evolves from beginning to the end. The moon is a measure of time. The crescent on Lord Shiva's head signifies that his control over time. Control over time and the moon is important to control nature. The Lord is eternal reality and is beyond time. Hari Om.
Om Namah Shivaya, the body smeared with ashes. This form of Lord Shiva symbolizes the transcendental aspect of his nature and indicates that his presence is much higher than this physical form. The ashes on the Lord's body is a symmetry ash which points to the philosophy of the life and death and shows that death is the ultimate reality of life. Most things in the universe reduce to ashes when burned, and this aspect of nature is suggested by the ash-smeared appearance of Lord Shiva, who is held to be the god of destruction in Hinduism. The Lord is beyond the cycle of birth and death.
Om Namah Shivaya, the Ganga. The River Ganga is the most sacred river for all Hindus. According to a legend, the River Ganga has its source in Lord Shiva and flows from his native hair. This is symbolically represented by depicting Ganga as a jet of water sprinkling out of his head of the Lord and falling on the ground. If he hadn't done this, the might of the Ganga falling from heaven may have destroyed the earth. Legend has it that the Lord allowed an outlet to the great river to traverse the earth and bring purifying water to human beings. Hence, Lord Shiva is often referred to as Gangadhara or bearer of the river Ganga.
The river Ganga also denotes fertility, one of the creative aspects of the Rudra. It also indicates that Shiva is not only the Lord of destruction, but also the bestower of knowledge, purity, and peace on the devotees.
Om Namashivaya, the third eye. In the great Hindu epic Mahabharata, Lord Shiva is depicted as the three-eyed god. Hence, he is often referred to as Triyambaka Deva, meaning the three-eyed lord. The sun is said to be his right eye, the moon the left eye, while fire is his third eye. While the other two eyes indicate his activity in the physical world, his third eye looks beyond the obvious. It stands for spiritual knowledge and power. Thus, it is called the eye of wisdom or knowledge. Like fire, the powerful gaze of Shiva's third eye can reach evil from anywhere and annihilate it completely. The third eye is seen as a way to reach higher levels of consciousness while still being present in the physical body. Hurry on.
Half-open eyes. You may have noticed that Lord Shiva's eyes are not completely open. The half-open nature of his eyes conveys that the cycle of the universe is still in progress. When he opens up his eyes completely, then a new cycle of creation begins. And when he closes them, then the universe is destroyed until the next phase of creation. The half eyes show that the creation is an eternal cyclic process that has no end or beginning.
Om Namashivaya, the snake around the neck. Lord Shiva is often shown with the snake curled 3 times around his neck, looking towards his right side. The 3 coils of the snake symbolize the past, present, and the future, and the coiling signifies the cyclic nature of it. The snake looking in the right direction of Lord Shiva signifies that the Lord's perpetual laws of reason and justice preserve natural order in the universe. The Lord wearing the deadly snake like an ornament signifies that he is independent of time and death. It also suggests the dormant energy called Kundalini Shakti that resides within him.
Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva, Om Namah Shiva. Hari Om. The 3 lines of ashes drawn on the Lord's head is known as the Vibhuti. It signifies the immortality of the Lord and his manifested glory. The 3 stripes on the forehead of Lord Shiva are a symbol of 3 gunas. Number 1, Sattva Guna, is represented by harmony, purity, being helpful, kindness, goodness, creative, and balance. Number 2, Rajas Guna, is confusion, overactive or ego, passionate, self-centered, and egoist. Number 3, Tamas Guna, is lazy, heavy, impure, and destructive. Hari Om.
Om Namah Shivaya. The tiger. Tiger represents the vehicle of Mother Shakti. Mother Shakti is the goddess of power. Lord Shiva wears the tiger skin to show us that he is the master of Shakti. Tiger is also lust. Lord Shiva sits on a tiger skin to show us that he has conquered lust. Tiger is also energy. Lord Shiva is the source of energy that flows throughout the universe. Hari Om.
Om Namashivaya, the Raksha Necklace. Lord Shiva is always shown wearing a necklace having 108 beads made with the seeds from the Raksha tree. The beads represent the elements used in the creation of the world. The Rudraksha necklace points to the Rudra aspect of the world. The word Rudra means strict or uncompromising, and Aksha means eye. It illustrates the fact that Lord Shiva is firm about his cosmic laws and strictly maintains law and order in the universe.
Om Namah Shivaya, the Damaru. The Damaru is a small hourglass-shaped drum that the Lord holds in one of his hands. The 2 sides are separated by a small neck-shaped structure that represents the 2 states of being, unmanifest and manifest. When shaken, the Damaru produces nada, the cosmic sound of Om, which can be heard during deep meditation. According to Hindu scriptures, Nada is the source of creation. This is one of the attributes of Shiva in his famous dancing representation known as Nataraja.
Om Namashivaya. Trishul. The trident or spear with 3 prongs is one of the accessories of Lord and symbolizes his 3 fundamental powers: Icha, will, Kriya, action, and Jnana, knowledge. It also signifies his power to destroy evil and ignorance, and his weapon and instrument of punishment. The trident represents Lord Shiva's manner of punishing the evildoers on all 3 planes: spiritual, subtle, and physical.
Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya. Kamandalu. The water pot or kamandalu, often shown adjacent to the Lord, is another of his accessories. It is said to be made by a dried pumpkin and contained emerald nectar. Indian yogis and sages are seen to carry the kamandalu as an item of basic necessity. The carrying of the kamandalu shows the yogic nature of the Lord, but has a deeper significance, as a ripe pumpkin has been plucked from a plant, its fruit removed and shell cleaned for containing the nectar. An individual too must give up his attachment to the physical world and clean his inner self of egoistic desires and experience the bliss of the self, symbolized by the nectar in the kamandalu.
Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya. Kundalas. The kundalas refers to the 2 types of earrings: Alakshya, meaning cannot be shown by any signs, and Niranjan, meaning cannot be seen by mortal eyes, worn by the Lord. The ornaments in the ears of the Lord signifies that he is beyond ordinary perception. It is noteworthy that the kundala in the left ear of the Lord is of the type used by women, and the kundala in the right ear of the Lord is of the type used by men. The dual type of the kundala represents the Shiva and Shakti, male and female principles of creation. Hari Om.
Om Namah Shivaya, Mount Kailash. Lord Shiva is often seen to have the beautiful Himalayas terminating backdrop. Mount Kailash is said to be his traditional abode. In Hindu mythology, Mount Kailash is said to represent the center of the universe. This denotes that Lord Shiva is Kailash, the bestower of peace.
Om Namah Shivaya. Nandi the bull. Nandi is the bull of Lord Shiva and is said to be his vehicle. The bull is a symbol both of power and ignorance, which suggests that Lord Shiva removes ignorance of his devotees and gives him the power of wisdom. In Sanskrit, a bull is called Vishra, which also means righteousness. The Nandi bull beside Lord Shiva indicates that he is an internal companion for righteousness.
Gauri Gane, Kripa Hari Om, dear camp participants. Thank you for tuning into our yoga camp online lessons. Please note that satsang will commence at 11 a.m. and a WhatsApp link will be sent to you shortly. Om.